Hi, welcome to the Transfer Talks podcast. It's your co-host Ashmit, with co-host Neil, and we have a super special guest today, Alexander, who transferred from community college to Berkeley for EECS. So super excited to have you, Alexander.
Yeah,
Thanks
Alex,
for bringing me.
it's great to have you. So, before we start, could we get like a little background on like maybe like a summarized journey of your
Yeah,
experience?
sure. So in high school, I was rejected from every college that I applied to because I took my language requirement outside of class because I took Russian, and obviously there's no AP Russian exam, but there's an equivalent called it's through this organization called the National Examination of World Languages, and I took it. I got a 5, and I asked my counselors to put it on my transcript. And they said that they did, but then unfortunately they told me on 2 days before graduation that they forgot and that my only options were either to basically just wait a year and to reapply or to go to community college and transfer. So I didn't, wanted to originally wait a year and just take a gap year and work, but I realized that I didn't think I could just sit around and wait for that long without taking any classes. So I ended up enrolling in community college that summer. Uh, and I took, a lot of classes. I took, I think, 13 units over the summer, something like 27 in the fall and 30 something in the spring. And I eventually transferred to Berkeley EECS. So,
Was
yeah,
this under 1 year or did you spend 2 years at community college?
I was a 1 year transfer.
Wow, yes. So normally people for Berkeley EECS, they like have to spend 2 years because of like the all the requirements. So like how did you balance all of that out within a year?
I think community college classes are generally significantly easier than uh, I'd say honestly, even depending on your high school, they might be even easier than high school classes. I think the best way to balance it would be to make sure that you're enrolling in classes that are somewhat like not too difficult just based on the rate my professor that they have, because a lot of times that is accurate. And so I did have the experience of enrolling in like a 1.1 star professor and rate my professor over the summer, and that was probably my hardest class, and I I never ended up doing that again. But I'd say just making sure they're choosing pretty good classes based on the rate my professor. And the way that it works out is that if you do end up wanting to transfer in a year or even sometimes in 2 years, at least for Berkeley, EECS has these recommended courses that you need to take. And because they're not offered at most places, you kind of need to shop around at different community colleges in order to do that. And since you're already needing to shop around, you might as well go to community colleges with professors that are a little bit um, easier or better based on the rate my professor. I'd say, yeah, that's probably my biggest advice.
I see. So, outside of taking classes and academic coursework, how did you what kind of extracurriculars did you do, and how did you sort of like elevate them? Because I talked to some Berkeley admissions officers, and they said they like to have for community college transfers, they like to have extracurriculars that are kind of after high school or like continued.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I uh, started community college. I took 2 community college classes over the summer of my junior year. So I had a good connection with my because the classes I took were differential equations and discrete math, and I had a really good connection with a discrete math professor who was the dean of the math department at my community college, and he um, referred me when I entered community college. I asked him to refer me to the president of the math club. I ended up getting a board position because of that. I was it wasn't like a president or anything, but it was club it was events coordinator at the math club. So that was one thing. I also worked. Um, I had a startup that I made back in high school, my senior year of high school, and I was working on that. And I also, because I was a 1 year transfer, I was able to include some of my high school extracurriculars from junior and senior year. So I competed in, if you're familiar with like GSD, SCF, I mean, that's a San Diego thing, but CSEF, that's California Science and Engineering Fair. I competed in that and I did pretty well. So I also listed that. I think those are pretty much my biggest thing. But I did end up filling out all 20 extracurriculars just with like, most of them weren't anything like huge, but yeah.
Mm. So like with your aspect with your like, academics done and like your thesis done, how did you approach the writing aspect? Because you said you were applying in 1 year, and it's not like the deadline for like Ivy Leagues where it's in March. It's still in November on November 30th. So you're gonna. It was pretty short timeline, and I'm trying to transfer in 1 year. So how did you do it? And like, what's your advice to like prospective 1 year transfers?
Yeah. So I didn't do it as best as I could have. I'm definitely a bit of a procrastinator. So I started working on it. I opened it in the summer and I tried to get some ideas down in the around August, maybe September times. But I didn't really start to go all in on working on it until maybe a week, maybe two before the deadline, which was definitely a mistake on my part. Uh, I think that the best thing you could do is probably just to start very early and just have your mind dwell on the ideas because you kind of need for UC essays more so than Common App essays or Ivy League essays. It's not really about having good eloquence necessarily. It's more so about showing and telling. So, or showing rather than telling. So you really want to be thinking about specific events or specific activities that you did that relate to the prompt and make sure to list them and sort of show the reader that through these activities and you can describe them in detail because they are 350 word sections. You
Mhm.
can describe them in detail and sort of show the qualities that you want to show through those activities. I think, yeah, that's basically the way that I interpreted it was that you could sort of elaborate on activities that you thought were especially important in your activity section. But yeah, I'd say start early for sure and just get as many people as you can to look at them and to yeah, go through them, give suggestions because I thought I was a pretty good writer like going into these, right? So I made some drafts and I edited them and I thought they were pretty good. But then, I gave them to maybe five or six different people. And going through those, it like completely changed my essay and it removed a lot of things, added a lot of things. And I think that, but reading it back, it's like a huge improvement that you a lot of times don't even see if you're writing yourself. So, yeah.
Uh, okay, yeah. So start early and like don't procrastinate, basically.
hmm
Okay.
Okay. And did you like kind of use like the same ideas that you wrote in high school in your transfer application?
Somewhat. I mean, I think it was different because I competed in CSEF my senior year, and I also made the start of my senior year. So I did have portions of significant activities that I had between my application the previous year and my application this year. So I did include those, and it was a pretty significant difference because of those also.
Okay. And if you don't mind sharing, like, is your startup like a registered company or is it kind of like something you've been working on?
Oh yeah, it's an LLC. It's an
Oh,
LLC.
okay. Because like a lot of students I talk to at community college, they're like kind of trying to work on a startup, but it's not really like a registered company. Would you like
Yeah.
to still put it like as an extracurricular?
Oh yeah, definitely. I one of my extracurriculars I forgot to mention was actually I there's for as I said for EECS and I think for CS also at UCLA and UC Berkeley they have these like recommended courses, strongly recommended courses that as I said aren't offered at most places. So one project that I did was I made sort of like a web scraper that would go through all the different assist pages and pull out all of the articulated classes for each college. And it would basically find me colleges that I could take those recommended classes at, which is how I was able to do like a lot of people aren't coming in with 61A, B, and C completed at Berkeley, but I was able to do that because I was I found the colleges that offered those classes. And that wasn't like a registered startup or anything. I tried to do a little bit with it. I tried to like email the dean at my school, at my college, email some people at Assist to see if they would be interested. But I mean, it wasn't too like it. It was good for it worked for me, but it wasn't too applicable for people who weren't in computer science or electrical or EECS. And so I ended up just being like a personal project on the side. And I still include that, and I wrote about that in my essays because it was a pretty significant, I guess, learning step for me.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be like pretty useful to the viewers and for me myself. Do you have like a link that you could possibly share?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just I built it on React.
Uh,
So it's just like a local
uh,
server thing.
is it open
There
source?
is it I no, I don't have a public repo to it, but it's because it's all local. But there is a site actually I do recommend. It's called I just found out about it like a day or two ago. It's called reverseassist.org, I believe, or .com. It's basically what I was trying to implement, but
Okay.
better. And I
Okay.
think it's new. And there's also, I didn't realize this. I don't know if either of you guys are in computer science, but Berkeley actually does have a list of all of the different colleges that articulate to their lower division computer science requirements, which is the strongly recommended classes. They have a spreadsheet somewhere. It's hard to find. I did find it, but yeah, you could also use that. The only thing I'd suggest though is that if you're applying to UCLA and UC Berkeley, some classes articulate to both recommended classes. So you only need to take like one to fill out both. Some don't. So I'd just maybe cross-checking that list if you do manage to find it with UCLA strong recommended classes. But yeah.
So you mentioned applying to UCLA.
Yeah.
When you finish your applications, what colleges did you apply to? Did you apply to any out of state? And what did you get in, and why did you choose Berkeley?
Yeah. So I mean, just to be transparent, I was accepted to only no, I was accepted to UCSD for computer engineering. I was accepted to Berkeley for electrical engineering, computer science. I was rejected from UCLA for computer science and engineering, and I was rejected from Davis and I was rejected from Irvine. But I do think that that's just because I didn't finish all of the coursework, the mandatory coursework for that, because I sort of just added those like a day before the deadline,
Mm.
just for fun. But uh, I also was thinking about applying. I know that Princeton recently expanded their transfer class to something like 50 students. I might be wrong about that, maybe 25. But I know that they expanded it more and that they especially favor like veterans and community college students. So I did want to apply. Sent out a few emails to professors asking about like research or something that could connect me more to the university to give me sort of like maybe an edge that I could write about in my application. But like number one, nobody responded. Like not even the transfer committee that I emailed responded when I was just asking for more information. So I didn't think that was too good of a sign. I also I also wanted to apply to Stanford and like a few other places, but I was taking there's this program. I also really recommend this program. It's called cross enrollment. At least that's what it's called at UCSD. I'm pretty sure most UCs have it, where if you're enrolled in, I think at least 6 units at a community college, and that's your home college is a community college, you're able to take any course you want, and at least at UCSD, you're able to just skip the waitlist for that class. So I enrolled, and you pay community college prices also for that class. So I enrolled in like an upper division computer science class, my the winter quarter, which was the same time that you needed to be submitting applications for those universities. And I was just taking a lot of other classes, and I just thought like I don't want to like have any potential that I'm not gonna finish with a 4.0 because I'm like working on these uh applications with like sub 1% acceptance rate. And I also don't get financial aid, which is a big downside for me. So yeah, just the UCs. is what I applied to.
Hmm. Okay. So now that you've transferred, right? You've transferred in 1 year, and this is kind of a dilemma I'm in. That I like when I transfer, I'll only be spending like what 2 years in college, and I really want
Mhm.
to take a third. But I know Berkeley, especially I'm applying business, so the
Mm.
hostel, they really don't like it when you take like gap years and try to extend your time at Berkeley. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you want to spend more time, or do you want to graduate early? What's like your headspace at for that?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say I think it's natural to want to spend more time there and be like more of a student there. But I'd also say like don't get too ahead of yourself in terms of like doing that because you don't know how you're gonna feel. Like a lot can change in 1 or definitely in 2 years where like maybe you just want to get out of like university and not just spend time there taking pretty useless classes. Because the thing is that like if you do end up transferring there, right, then you are going to be like more advanced than other students. So you're just naturally going to need to spend less time there and like artificially extending that by taking some classes that you don't necessarily need. It just doesn't seem it doesn't seem like a spend good use of your time. But that is like to say that right now I'm given 2.5 years by the College of Engineering, and if I double major or pursue a simultaneous degree, I'm given 3 additional years, right? So 3 years total. I but like I said, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. So I think just keeping your options open to like try to finish pretty relatively quickly, but still, yeah, I don't think it's that big of a concern. I don't think it's that big of a concern about like how long you're going to spend there and whether you're going to finish and be like, oh, I wish I would have spent an extra year.
Hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned like you took a lot of those upper division classes. Does your GPA from community college like end up getting transferred to UC Berkeley at all?
No, it doesn't. But I mean, your UC GPA doesn't really matter besides for university honors. So like I mean Berkeley doesn't have the Greek honors system, but that has an equivalent. That's the only real thing. And like obviously some university programs. That's the only real thing that the UC GPA is useful for. Like the main thing that I think people use it for like law schools or grad schools or other things, that takes into account both your community college GPA and your UC GPA. So it is still definitely important. Don't think like, oh, it's spring, I'm admitted. Now I can just like do anything I want and like just pass my classes.
And like during your time at community college, do you take advantage of any like research opportunities or like internships?
No, not really. I mean, I was working at like I said, I was working on a startup for during that time. So I don't know if that's not really an internship, but it is work. There were, if you are interested in that, there are a lot of resources for it. I mean, I guess it just depends on the college. I went for my CS61B requirement, which was data structures and algorithms. I took that class at Fullerton College online, and that had constant resources for internships specifically for community college students in CS, which was, I think, would be really, really nice for somebody who is looking for that. It was like internships in New Mexico for, I don't know, some kind of something for the military, I think. Internships like in China or Taiwan for like an immersion program. And all of these were like for community college students, which was really, really cool. But yeah, I never took advantage of those because I didn't really think I needed them.
Hmm. So now you've gotten into Berkeley. How do you sort of feel? Wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you spent any time there, or you just got in?
Yeah, I'm taking summer classes there. I'm actually
Okay,
at
okay.
Berkeley right now. Yeah.
So how's the campus like? Is it nice? Because everyone there's a lot of talk about how you see Berkeley as a campus, as a place. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's definitely a nice campus. I like it a lot. It's sort of it feels more like mm, I like it because I spent a lot of time at UCSD, right? Because I've taken classes there and I spent a lot of my time there. Uh I do think it seems like Berkeley just feels more well established. Like the buildings are a little bit more like rustic. The architecture is definitely a little bit older,
Mm.
which is a positive in some ways. Like they're also all the buildings have like these giant titles on them like zoology or biology or psychology and it's just or like physics and it's just really cool to see that. UCSD is really brutalist compared to that. And I think a lot of other colleges are also a lot more modern, which I don't know. I definitely like the campus. I've heard also a lot of people say that it's like toxic, especially in computer science, because it's binned for a lot of classes, which if you don't know that is what that is, it's like they only give a certain number of percentage of people A's in a class. So it's like a little toxic in that regards that or people say that it's toxic in that regards because people like push others down in order to get a better grade themselves. But I mean, I've only taken two classes, but I haven't really noticed that. I think yeah, it's definitely really lively. It's a really lively place. Life moves a lot faster here.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Like I'm planning on applying EECS for Berkeley, and I'm thinking about taking upper division classes, but like my only concern would be like, would I be adequately prepared for when I come on to Berkeley and then I like take the next version of the upper division? So like what would you think? Do you think it's like worth it? Like it does increase your admission chances, but then when you're like on campus, would you be at like a little bit of a disadvantage?
Yeah, so the thing is that I actually got confirmation on this, or at least some confirmation from the Berkeley admissions team. And basically for transfers, it's really pretty like hard set. It's a pretty algorithmic way that they judge your like competitiveness based on like not including your essays. And it's just fulfillment of the uh all of the lower division requirements and also any recommended classes that you take is also an added benefit. But taking upper division classes doesn't necessarily benefit you directly unless you're able to like write about them or get some kind of internship or research opportunity with the professor. But just naturally, it's like seeing that on your transcript, it's not actually going to provide you any benefits. But I do think that it was helpful for me at least to have some experience with like upper division computer science classes. I think just like as a person, I think in terms of competitiveness, in terms of getting in, I don't think it'll help. But in terms of like maintaining a good GPA at Berkeley or just being able to perform well in the school, I think it would help. Especially I think, but I do think that uh for those upper division classes, take something that you're interested in more so, or something that's useful more so than something that like you've uh yeah, just take something that's useful because I took software engineering and that was definitely a useful thing for me because I was working on my startup at the time and knowing all those techniques of software engineering was really big, really helpful for me. So yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And like, do you plan to retake any of those courses or like, do you feel like it's not really worth it or if you can't even retake those classes if you were to transfer,
The lower division?
the upper division classes?
Oh, the upper division class. I've only taken one upper division class and one graduate class, so it's not like I would be taking too many classes.
Mhm.
It's uh I don't think I'd retake it at Berkeley just because I got really lucky because software engineering is considered like it's considered not like a very good class, but it's considered a core class at UCSD for their CS program, so they spent a lot of effort on it. And at Berkeley, it's kind of the opposite. I've heard that a lot of times it's offered online so they don't really, and a lot of people consider it to be not the greatest course at Berkeley. So I'm just got lucky that it's TSD, and I don't think I'd take it again at Berkeley. Um, yeah, what was the rest of your question?
Yeah, that was my question, I guess.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was your question. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So Alex, what are your future plans now that you got into Berkeley Beats? Do you plan to pursue like an MBA or a master's and you want to scale your non or your startup? What do you have?
Yeah, so I think right now my biggest emphasis is just going to be on my startup because Berkeley does have a lot of resources for that, and they have accelerators. I'm applying to an accelerator this summer, called like Berkeley Skydeck, maybe YC also a little later. But I'd say that's probably my biggest emphasis right now. I also definitely want to get involved in school stuff. So joining clubs potentially, joining some kinds of like business organizations to also help in soft skills, things like that. Uh, yeah. And also, I mean, I am thinking about pursuing grad school, whether it be like a master's or a PhD. I am not sure which one I want to do. I talked to my professor, my UCSD, and just told me like, don't leave anything, like leave all your options open right now, because at this age, like you shouldn't really know exactly what kind of path you want to go down. So just have a lot of experience with like taking internships, getting any kind of research opportunities that you can, uh, doing a startup if you can. All like don't leave yourself closed off to any of those paths. And eventually I think you'll find out what you prefer.
Yeah, no, I'm interested in the same thing. We're like really young right now, so we have like unlimited potential. We can do whatever we want. But right now, I'm just like you, just focused on getting better, learning more, so I can sort of make better decisions.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, thank you, Alexander, for coming on. I think you gave us a lot of insight on sort of how the engineering aspect of Berkeley works. We covered the business side, but we never really dived deep onto the EECS version, which is something that's pretty popular. So yeah, thank you so
Hmm.
much for your insight. And yeah, I think me, Ashmit, and a couple of the listeners definitely learned and grew from this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
worries.